go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RT jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Look at the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.
Hey everybody, thanks for showing up tonight and watching the show. This is the Bro Road Show, and we're here to help you with tips and information from some really heavy-hitting guests, and as well as myself and Sam, who is a virtual marketing and also lure designer. He's my co-host, and what a better co-host to have. He could have this show. I mean, he's so good, and tournament winner, and even painted a stamp. So tonight on the show, we're going to have Tom Wynn. And if you haven't heard of him, you will. Whether or not you're going to watch his show or not, he's a big name. And good to see you, everybody. But before I bring on Sam, I want to thank Bemidji Sports Center. If you like playing in the mud, you want to get a big side-by-side or a four-wheeler, definitely check out Bemidji Sports Center. Talk to Brandon and go down there and see their cool machines. And if you're a jet skier, they have those too. And then I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for sponsoring the show. It's great to have you. Great customer service, beautiful mall, like a big inside area. They always have hot coffee. They have the best service center and the best customer service. So definitely that. And then if you're going to vacation up in Bro Country, or if you're in Bemidji, visit Bemidji. One click, and there's a world of opportunities and resorts and places to go, and they will help you make your stay in Bemidji. They have a great destination, a lot of places. So now, Brooke, please bring in Sam, my co-host.
Hey, bro.
What do you know, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm amped up.
I see that.
Yeah, it's been a busy day, and a little bit of how you guys doing? Working on the Lund. I just got my 2075 Pro V, and I'll have picks next time. But kind of rigging it myself. I get it to about 90%, and then I need somebody. I want to check over the wires, make sure it's pro. Otherwise, I'm going to tie it like shoelaces.
Yeah, for sure. What are you all doing this year? You got your amped batteries in there. What are you running for amped in the boat?
So forever and ever, everybody always had their sonars hooked up to their starting cranking battery. I have a separate battery. Everybody should do it. It's kind of a big hot trend the last couple of years. And so Amped has a 160 amp hour battery that's going to run 3 big screens. And hey, thanks for coming on, TCWU. Appreciate it. But I'm going to have all that wired to that. And I got a separate battery for my live wall and for everything else. It is just a catastrophe waiting to happen to have everything wired to a starting battery. And there's still people out there that do that. And you don't even want your live well on there. Just everything should be everywhere else and checked with Amped. And they have diagrams that tell you everything, and they have great customer service. Every company I have that I'm with is great customer service, like your company.
Exactly.
Neil's with us. Neil finally left the ice to come watch the show. I seen you had a picture of him being on the ice. But so Sam, what's going on in the area? What's new at Northland?
The area, I would say conditions are getting tough for ice fishing, but looking better for open water. I did see some people still out on the ice as of this weekend up in the Bemidji area, but the shorelines are going quickly. Starting to pull offshore a little bit, and that ice looks awfully dark and soft out there. So I haven't been out personally. If we get some more warm weather here, it'll hopefully go quick. But looking forward to open water, we got our new tungsten jigs, and they have been selling like fire. We still got plenty of them left, but they're starting to go quick. We haven't put out the get them while they last now, but it's been on the radar. So this is our new tungsten jig. It's 30% more dense than lead. You can see right here, this is just an 1/8 ounce jig. We have it in both the short shank, like your Fireball, and the long shank version. Let me like that. So they're just a really awesome jig. Like I said, it's 30% more dense than lead. It's a harder material, so you get a lot more feel of what's on the bottom. It transfers whether you're on sand, rock, weeds, a lot better. We got a really good hook in it. Awesome jig. So as part of celebrating the launch of the tungsten, I included a bunch of it in this week's giveaway. So this week we got the Northland Prize Pack, which includes a pile of tungsten.
Whoa!
Those 2 packs are going for like $10 a piece. So
Wow.
it's a pretty big giveaway. And then of course the Bro Roadshow mug. We got the Bro Roadshow hat, as well as the swag from Visit Bemidji. So we got the hoodie, as well as Paul and Babe hanging out there. They just dropped off a bunch more Paul and Babes in my office today. So yeah, it's an awesome giveaway. So to enter the giveaway, be sure to comment, like, and share the show. And we'll be picking out of everyone who did that towards the end of the show here. So like, comment, and share, and we'll be picking a winner at the end of the show.
How many fishing shows give away stuffed animals like that? How awesome is that?
Well,
I mean,
I came in the office this morning, and my light was on, and I'm kind of like, someone must have been looking for a sample or whatnot. But Greg, the CEO, stopped by later, and he's like, Sam, I just had to look to see what kind of stuffed animals you had going on in your office. He was a little confused at why they were in there, but after he saw that they were Paul and Babe, he figured it out. So it was all good.
Well, that's fantastic. And, Sam, tonight we have a really special guest, Tom Wynn, and he's a hammer in the tournaments. And I actually met him a few times on the water, and he was out fishing, pre-fishing tournaments, and just super cordial guy. And but he is a loner, but we're going to bring him on in just a second here. And he wins in, his last name is Hyunh, but it's pronounced Wynn. And so what a great name to have anyway.
It's easy to remember because he wins a lot. So
and real quick on a local recap, sturgeon season is just coming up here. And have you been sturgeon fishing? Have you heard?
I have not been out sturgeon fishing. I know when a bunch of people are up there walleye fishing, they are getting them. I'm kind of debating whether I'm going to go up there or not now. I kind of got turkeys on the mind, and my big boat is down, so we just have the little boat. So we'll see if we make it up there or not. But I know they were catching them previous to the big fork and the little fork going out. I think it got a little tougher when that happened, but we were up there and you hooked into one walleye fishing while we were there. So I think they're still biting, and as this water clears up, it's going to be really good here coming up. So.
Well, we got some great questions too, but I'm going to save some of those questions for when Tom's on here too. But Rainy River turned muddy, but so now the Mississippi's going up, the St. Croix is up, the Minnesota River's up, Big Stone area is flooded with floating sheets of ice. It is just a mess everywhere around here, and there's Missouri River's not that far away, and even Devil's Lake, they got all the different canals and stuff, and shore fishing in those areas is good. And it's not that far from Bemidji, but our walleye season's closed. And then if you want to drive farther, you got Detroit River. You've got Saginaw River over by Linwood, Michigan, has never been open, and they just smash them there. It's just off a big Huron there. So a lot of destinations, and then Erie in Green Bay is on the way there. So there's a lot of places to go. It depends on how far you want to drive. And so someone's rubbing it in, Detroit River's on fire. And these seem like far away destinations, but when you have a lot of muddy rivers, it gets closer to hit that hammer and hit that pedal. But so let's bring on Tom Wynn, and it's good to have him on the show. Brooke, please bring him on. Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
Good. How's it going?
It's going, man. What can we say? I'm losing the ice got kind of rotten and sketchy, and I love ice. I absolutely love ice.
I love rotten and sketchy ice. So
yeah, you're probably you've already been out and fished a lot. And how did the first tournament go?
The first tournament was better than I planned. Of course, it's a river, and I'm piecing together river systems I mean, pretty decently, I think. Like, I struggled on my first couple of events on rivers because they just all fish different with the current, the moving water, where the fish position. Well, going into this one in Illinois, I was thinking that it'd be, it'd be good if I got a top 40. I mean, that would be like ideal. And after last year's river event on the NWT, I just wanted to catch one fish, and
Yeah.
I'm starting to dial it in. So I did catch decent weights both days. I got a pretty good finish in that, so I'm happy with it.
And this is Spring Valley in Illinois, and that was the kickoff tournament for the National Walleye Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, you fish how many different circuits do you fish?
A couple years ago, I fished a couple random AIM team events, and then after that, in 2021 is when I first started the NWT and AIM circuits both full time. So just last couple years or so.
That's actually quite a bit.
Yeah,
that's a lot to keep up on. And now I don't have all the stats, but how many tournaments have you won?
I don't honestly, I haven't kept track. Like,
it's like 10, isn't it?
It's in that ballpark.
Okay.
Leech Lake a couple times, Lake of the Woods in the championship, Superior, Red Wing, Full 4. I have to get you. I don't know. I'm super happy with it. I still can't believe it when I look at the wall, like at my teammate Nate's house and stuff. Like, when I look at the plaques and stuff like that, it's like, wow, it's still unreal to me. I'm super thankful.
Is 3 years. This is 3 years. It's like you've got a lifetime career of trophies and first, second, and team of the year in just 3 years.
Yeah, I think we've got with NWT and AIM combined, I have like 18 top 10s and 14 top 5s.
Well, so people listen up. He's got stuff to say here.
I've had a good run. I'll admit it. Like I said though, it's still unreal to me. But I'm hoping to just keep it rolling and to share some of what I know with some you out there who are still learning, still trying to cut their teeth into this walleye fishing thing, and that's why I'm here.
So, yeah. Tom, what is it about tournament fishing that you love? Because obviously it's not for keeping records of the wins and losses. You're saying, oh, I don't even know how many wins for sure. So what draws you to tournament fishing?
Hey, bro, I can't hear. Sam's cutting out really bad on my end, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just recap it. He wanted to know what's your favorite part about tournament fishing? What do you like about it? I mean,
my thing is the competition with, like, mostly I think it's a competition with myself at this point. I want to keep learning and I told myself as a small business owner, I didn't get into a boat for the first time till I was in my 30s. And so I told myself, if I'm going to invest this money doing this tournament trail thing, if I'm going to invest this time away from my businesses, I am going to make a giant effort doing this fishing thing. So I think doing tournaments, it just pushes me. I want to win. I want to do well. And you guys know, if I haven't done well in a tournament, it's terrible. And when I've done well, it's very, very well. So it's just one of those things. I'm out there. I try not to use the same technique in any single tournament. That's been my goal for the past couple of years. And me and Nate go out on an AIM circuit tournament. We tell ourselves, okay, this is what we used last time. Let's do something totally different. And so we're trying to find things that these walleyes haven't seen, and there's a lot that they haven't seen. So
Sam, you're getting that question. Why don't you read out some of the questions here for Tom?
Yeah, we got a couple questions here. I saw a good one earlier that I know Tom will really like to hit, and we've talked about it before, but you have a really good explanation of it. So let's go into it. when do you use the short shank jig versus the long shank jig, whether that's a fireball jig or the new tungsten? I know you love the new tungsten jigs. Short shank over long shank.
Yeah, so the short shank is, I use the short shank for if I'm using live bait most of the time, because I want the least amount of that hook showing. So where Bro's fingertips are right there is about where the end of the leech or the minnow is going. I'm not threading it up towards that head. I want most of that metal hidden. And you all know I like to use more natural colors.
Mhm.
The one he has there, I think they're called gold shiner. And so when I'm using short shank, I like the jig. To me is just a vehicle to get whatever bait I'm using in front of that fish or to get the fish's attention. So short shank, live bait. Long shank, I like to use it for the longer plastics, for things so I can get that hook back farther towards the back. So in case that short bites that, and on a finicky bite, I like using the short shank. And that new short shank tungsten that just came out, it's perfect. That shank length is perfect. The gap of that hook is absolutely spot on to get that hook through the bone of the walleye's mouth. I haven't had that consistency with any jig that I tried prior to them coming out with that.
Yep. So what Tom is talking about here is the hook gap. So all the Northland Fireballs and the tungsten jigs have a custom hook in it. So generally a 90-degree bend jig hook like this comes up, drops down, comes out of the middle of the jig, and then you get your gap. But when you make these short shanks like this, moving that point up farther, you can see how small the hook gap is. So these new tungsten jigs, well, and the Fireballs have this really short, got to go thing backwards here, have this really short neck on it. So you still get this really wide hook gap. And that's what kind of makes the Northland short shake stuff so special and gets a good hookup percentage with having a short shank jig. So super important.
Do you use jigs like these deep V's at all?
Me? Yeah. I have in the past. Lately, I've just been dialing in those tungstens and I use the MVP jigs a little bit on the Illinois River because that hook gap right there, that style hook is perfect for those bigger bellied, bigger bodied swim baits.
Mm-hmm.
That locks in really well. And so, there's some other questions. Let's say 5 to 10 feet of water, clear water. Somebody asked right away, how would you approach that? I mean, if you want to get some walleyes,
cast. That's it. That's the thing. Cast and use. In lake systems, the biggest line that I've used fluorocarbon wise is around 10-pound test. That's the biggest. So I'm talking if I go to Green Bay or any of these Lake of the Woods, any of these systems that are a little bit more stained, not so like in Minnesota, Clearwater Lakes, I'll use the 6-pound test for those finicky Clearwater fish. That's one way to start. And then if you're in that shallow of water, very effective for some giant fish in a lot of cases. Go small with your jig. I mean, you can go, small compared to fishing your average, 12 to 16 feet, and downsize that jig, use light line, and cast away from the boat. Whether you're using forward-facing sonar sometimes in that shallow water, there's a big learning curve, or sometimes it just doesn't, it read things that shallow. But if you know the fish are there, the wind's been beating that shore, go in there with, light tackle. That's the best way to attack that.
So when you were talking about using fluorocarbon, is that fluorocarbon leader and using braid to a leader, or are you throwing straight fluorocarbon in those shallow water situations?
I never throw straight fluorocarbon, and I would my tip, and there's a lot of you out there probably watching that probably maybe do, but it has too much. I don't know. It's a nightmare to cast sometimes, and when you're trying to make those longer, even 40 feet, 50 feet foot cast, fluorocarbon, it just doesn't come through the guides easy. Sometimes it'll unravel on you on your spool. So I use a braid, always around a 10-pound braid to the equivalent fluorocarbon pound test or smaller. And I don't. A lot of people ask, and a lot of people do this, but they put a small swivel in between their line. I don't do that because again, it affects your casting distance and the fish. I to see that, so I just tie a knot. I use a double uni knot just because I am used to doing that now. I've been doing that knot for years, and it's super strong.
That's a true statement, and I agree with you. Now, when you're up in Lake of the Woods or Mississippi, were they line shy up there?
I don't know, because I just stuck with my confidence. I still use that leader. The reason he's asking about Lake of the Woods and Mississippi River is because the water clarity of Lake of the Woods is sometimes not even a foot or two. You can't. I could barely see the bottom of my live well. And going up there at the time for the championship, I had no clue. I thought it was. I was like, oh, Canada and Minnesota, it has to be crystal. Get up there. I'm like,
yeah,
something's wrong.
Yeah.
I was thinking like there's a bunch of forest fires at the time. I'm like, that's what's doing it.
that's good old Lake of the Woods. And
yeah,
Red Wing isn't any cleaner, and you wonder how they could see.
Yeah, so I don't think so. But I did. I think you can get away with heavier line, like at Lake of the Woods, but I still don't think, just out of confidence, I would still go with fluorocarbon versus doing straight braid. Also, going back to the leader, when you're tying your leader for your spinning rods, get that fluorocarbon fairly long, even like 6 feet. So I cut mine to a length when my bait is hanging about a foot from the top of my rod, and that fluorocarbon almost to the reel, not quite. If you get it all the way to the reel, you're asking for a lot of just annoying issues, because you get a couple winds on that reel, it's just going to unravel on you when you're trying to cast, and it's stupid. So just keep that fluorocarbon a little bit outside of your reel.
How about main lines, guys? This Bro and Tom, do you think, I really like using like a high vis main line, so you can kind of line watch a little bit and see those bites, especially in shallow water, when your jig just hits the bottom and those ticks. Do you think your braided line, do you like to keep it camouflage, or that doesn't matter when you have a good long leader like what Tom's talking about?
Okay, so he's asking about with the high vis, right, bro? High vis versus braid. Okay, yeah. So I use high vis all the time, and it doesn't make a difference, because you have that's another reason for that longer leader. So you're that if you're fishing, let's say 15 feet of water, and you have a 6 or 7 foot leader, that's pretty high up there, far away from that fish. So I don't think it makes a difference. I use high vis on everything, because Nate, right away when we first started fishing together, I was using high vis yellow, and he was using camouflage or that moss green or whatever. And I kept trying to see his line. No. and it's key when you're looking for these light bites. There's times when these big female, like off the spawn, for example, they're lethargic, but they want to eat. They want to start eating. They'll pick that up sometimes when you're in a little bit deeper water, and the only way you got a bite is you're seeing that line move. You can't see that with a green. So
yeah, exactly, and that's why I really like high vis, just for that line watching aspect of it. You can see when your line, when your jig hits the bottom, you get that little bow of slack. So I like it.
Well, and I'm I'm on Cass a lot, and that lake can be really weird sometimes. And I use green a lot out there, and I do the long leaders. And what I find on the clear waters, because all of our lakes are clear, even to the sinker, if you got a big chub going down there, if you got braid to your sinker, they won't bite. So you have to tie a leader, fluorocarbon leader, to your sinker, and then fluorocarbon out this way, and that gets crazy.
Yep, because when you're dragging something, what do the fish see first?
Yeah,
the line goes by them first, and if that's already spooking them, or even if you're using fluorocarbon and that fluorocarbon's too heavy and that fish brushes up against it, you spooked it. So there's always better to go a little bit lighter than what we think.
That's good point. And then while we're on the fluorocarbon, just to recap, we had 2 questions. He uses a 6-foot leader, and I'm about that same, between 4 and 6 feet. If I'm on Cass, I'll use a 6-foot leader, but if I'm on a Winnie, 4 is fine. And every lake's got its own personality, but so he's using 6 feet and then a back-to-back uni. So he already gave those tips earlier. But one thing I wanted to get into here is, so you think line diameter is a big thing, and if you're in clear water, is it worth it to go even less? I mean, I've heard stories of guys using super thin line on fish, or is that just taking a big risk?
It is, if your whole setup is efficient to use light line, and then you can maximize your chances greatly. Like 6 and 8 pound test, honestly, with, we've gone out and caught, 45, 48 pound bags of walleyes, and we haven't broken off. We have, as far as line breaking or leader breaking, it hasn't happened yet, and we're using light line. But what I mean by the proper setup, like, you have to have a reel, for example, with a very, very smooth drag, have that drag set just right, use the correct rod action for the situation, so that when you set the hook, not only are you not ripping it out of the fish's mouth, if you get a good hook set, you're not, like on Cast, for example, when we won that Masters Walleye Circuit tournament back in 2020, that was our 3rd tournament that we'd ever fished. And so we found fish, we were catching fish on tournament day between 55 and 68 feet of water on tournament day. We any shallower than that. So, and setting a hook on an 8 pound walleye in 65 feet of water is something everybody should experience one time. It's like setting a hook, you think you've got a log on the bottom, your rod bends over, you're like thinking you're stuck, all that water pressure holding that fish down. That fish is big, light tackle. So if my rod action was too stiff, for example, or if I, there are certain hook sets also. So if you're used to just like bass fishing, you see like people drive that hook home when they're set hook. There's some guys who walleye fish that way too, but there's certain instances for that. But when you're fishing with that light line, those big fish with small baits, no, it's just that too has to be tuned. So when you're looking for that finicky fish in clear water, or you're looking for that 20-year-old 10, 12 pounder that's seen everything, that's where you have to make adjustments. And that's where, I've learned to be patient, and those fish are the hardest to catch, but those are the ones that make the biggest difference at the end of the day in a tournament.
Makes sense.
No, it's all this line conversation has been really, really interesting, and especially some of the tournament aspects of it. So, Tom, if you're using a light leader like that, how often are you changing out your leader?
How often am I changing out? What was that, Brian?
Your full leader line, like, a lot of times I'll go a little heavier in the spring, because then I can use it for a number of trips without having to worry about it. You can just cut it back a little bit. But, if you're getting down to that 6-pound test mark, are you switching out your leader every trip, every couple trips?
Like switching it out, I switch, like I don't switch it out much throughout the season unless if I'm fishing Lake of the Woods, for example, I'll keep my 10 on there, maybe 12 leader. If I go to Ottertail or somewhere, a good walleye population, but the historic size isn't that big, I'll go down to my 6 or 8. But if you're talking about switching out my leader line, I just in general, on a tournament day, I do it every day.
Yeah.
On a tournament day, I do it every single day. If I'm out fishing Minnesota, stuff like that, I don't like just to fish. Well, I will switch it out. If I'll check my line. If I have a fray on there, if I have anything like that, if I catch a northern, I'll change it out every single time. But that's about. And I'm sorry again, vocals are coming in like very choppy on my end. So.
Well, and we got the viewers were wondering what action rod. So, in that question, are you using a medium light or do you go medium fast?
Medium light.
Medium light.
Yeah.
And then, if you're throwing a jig and minnow or you're throwing a swim bait, do you give it a little action? Someone wanted to know.
I have been approached this way a lot by fellow competitors or people that come talk to me after the tournament. They're like, what the heck are you doing? Because the slip bobber thing has been a giant factor in tournaments in the last couple of years with live scope and forward facing sonar, things like that. So, and also jigging wraps, glide baits, puppet minnows, those type things, and that's a lot of action. You're just ripping that thing constantly. But when people have seen me fishing, whether it's especially in a tournament, they're like, what in the world are you doing? Because I must just look like I'm standing there, man, not moving anything. So I am giving the bait action, but hardly ever. Even if it, artificials, it is like, again, it's a patience thing. It's a big fish tack, but it's like sometimes I'm just standing there. I'm just the motion of the boat in the water is the action I'm giving my bait sometimes. If I'm wanting to see a reaction, I'll give it a twitch, but it's like, a 3-inch twitch. I'm not like, jacking that thing or anything. So I am very, I fish a little bit different. I fish very, very, very slow. And I think that's also, it's like I'm trying to give them something different, just annoy them. Some people say they're annoying them by jigging in front of them, and that too, you can go both ways. But I just think I'm just like leaving it down there. They're so curious. If you watch underwater bass, they don't have very much underwater footage of walleye, but if you watch underwater footage of bass, they will sit there and stare, whether it's a plastic crawl, plastic worm, live bait, whatever. They're just looking at it for the longest time. And some of these 8-pound bass, which is a giant, sit there and look at it for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes before it decides it wants to eat it. So that's been my mentality into walleye fishing, switching to the walleye side, is they're the same. It's a fish. They're predatory. Walleye have teeth. Why wouldn't they be cooler than a bass? So then I fish them the same way, basically.
Interesting. I love the great answers.
So when do you decide to use live bait over plastics or vice versa? Is there something you look at? Is it time of year?
Can you tell me what was that, Brian? Sorry, Sam.
When do you use plastics or live bait? He was asking.
Okay.
And, what is the factor that kind of changes your ideas when to use it or not?
Yeah, so I don't know the way I'm fishing. I don't know that a plastic or a live bait right now would be my go-to. I have both in the boat all the time when it comes to tournaments, just in case. So with plastics, there's so many variations there where there's only like 5 variations of live bait. And so I like to give those fish something different, like I said, to look at. Like all these big fish that I'm chasing, that I'm going after, has seen every minnow or leech or whatever dragged on a Lindy rig or pitched to them or whatever. They've seen all that live bait. They've seen plastics drug past them. So I'm experimenting with plastics. I'm coming up with ideas for, plastics that fish haven't seen and colors and things like that. So to give that big fish something they haven't seen before to pique curiosity, because I often wonder, especially with live scope now, forward facing sonar, you're able to see that fish. I could have a leech swimming in front of a fish's face. And one time I had a leech swimming in front of this giant for like 8 minutes and nothing. I just left it swimming right there in its face. It wouldn't eat it. And I dropped a plastic down there. Like within probably less than 10 seconds, it picked it up and I caught it, and it was a 29 incher. So that's what I mean. It's all about just giving them something different to look at, but I won't rule out live bait. I will not rule out plastics. I use both, and I alternate through them to maximize my odds and see what they want at the time.
Well, and I got to ask you this, and I already know. Do you ever use a bobber?
I have not caught a fish on a bobber, and not that I'm against it by any means, but my goodness, like I said, I fish slow, right? But to me, that's a whole nother level of slow.
90% of the guys out there in tournaments
They
are
do it now.
bobbers.
Yeah,
and there you heard it, guys. Again, you don't use bobbers.
Well, I have yet to catch a fish on a glide bait. Weirdly enough, I have not caught one on any kind of those jigging style hard baits. But the bobber thing, like we're just now seeing that come up in tournaments now on, like, it's nuts. A lot of people are doing it now, and cast. You mentioned cast. The last tournament, big tournament that was there, I'd say over 80% were bobber fishing, and it's a very effective technique with forward facing sonar and stuff now. So I have nothing against it. It's just not for me.
I love the answer though, and we're gonna take a quick pause. Hey Sam, you want to tell viewers what they could win?
Yeah, exactly. Good point. So we got the prize pack again tonight. We have a bunch of the new Northland tungsten jigs in there.
Wow.
Of course, the Bro Roadshow mug, the hat, and some of the swag and little stuffed Paul and Babe from Visit Bemidji. So to get entered in to win, make sure to comment, like, and share the show, and we'll be picking a winner from the group of people that do that. So like, comment your questions, and share, and we'll be picking a winner towards the end of the show.
Well, what a haul that would be to win, huh?
Yeah.
There's even stuffed animals in there. I love it.
I know. I gotta get me one.
Now here's one, and kind of a two-pronged question. What plastics do you use most in matching the hatch? Do you use vibrant colors or dull colors? And then as far as brands, I mean, just kind of what's a good one for people to use?
Well, I mean, I started off using in my career, I started using the Kitech bait just because of the soft plastics and stuff like that. Now I've been, fortunate enough to be able to test some newer plastics, and I got a giant box the other day, and it was like, oh my goodness! I had to open it in my mind. I was opening it in slow motion. Even it was so cool. But it was all these new prototype plastics, and I'm excited because anything that you can reel and retrieve. Okay, if it's a paddle tail minnow, or crawl. Anything that you can retrieve at a super slow pace, and then that paddle tail's moving, that's a good plastic. All right. And that there's a lot out there that you can reel slow roll is what we call it. If we slow roll it, it doesn't move. It just like, just the tail just kind of is dead.
Debris in the water.
Yeah. So, I'm excited about this box of plastics. I'll keep everybody updated when, these are, a thing. But, everybody also knows that I'm very, in interviews and stuff, that I am very big into scents. So I think that's also my, plastic versus live bait thing. I think I could catch them on anything at this point, is because I'm very big into scent on baits, and there's certain plastics that scents that I use don't work with plastic. You put it on, and then you give it a couple casts, and that scent is gone. Okay. There's plastic technology out there now that will absorb these scents like a sponge, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm very excited for this new technology. I'm excited for that. And that's also why the whole, live bait thing is, I'll keep it, but have way more options. Color, you asked about color. I'm all about natural. You guys know that, everybody who follow me. I'm all about natural, like all the time. I don't think I've thrown any bright colored plastic for years. I'm talking, black, green pumpkin looking colors, things like that. If you match the hatch, yeah, that's fine, because you're using natural colors. White to me is natural in the river system, because you're getting that flash of white silver like a shad. So there's a lot of different techniques, a lot of different options, but I prefer natural look, the natural colors.
How do you build confidence? There's people that don't have confidence in it, and what's a simple thing you could give them to say, okay, try this and you'll be more confident?
Well, I know a lot of people don't use as light as line as I do. I know that people don't do a braid to fluorocarbon like I do. And the thing is that braid being light, the lighter the braid. Also, there's different braids out there. So I know you like Sunline, and that is, so if you go to the store and pick out and you feel it. I know a lot of you out there watching this have felt braid before, and it's very waxy. And you think, oh, that's good. That's good. That's going to help me cast. No, it's waxy. It's stiff. And when you go to cast, it's like slamming those guides, and it's not, and it's restricting how fast your bait's shooting out of there in your distance. Feel that braid. If that braid feels like thread, a lot of people's been scared of that. A lot of people think, oh, it feels like thread. It feels so soft, it's going to break. If it says 10-pound test, it's basically going to be a 10-pound test. Or it probably is more. But I like that thread-like feel, that super limp braid, so that you can control that cast. You can get cast farther out there. So do that, and then put on something natural. Go with a lighter jig. And I think it's going to maximize your, when the opener comes in Minnesota, for example, it's going to maximize what you're catching. Use the smallest hook you can get away with. And when you're learning this, get those bites first and then adjust. If you're missing bites, go with the wider gap hook. Just adapt. Don't go on YouTube and see professional and just think, oh, this is easy. Go out, start like I did a couple years ago. I started with the smallest presentation I could find, smallest tackle I could find. That's how I built my confidence. If you're out there with your new forward-facing sonar and you're like, if you don't know what you're looking at when you first put it in the water, first cast the bait out. Make sure you can see that. Then after that, if you're not sure what you're looking at, cast to every. cast every single thing that you're not sure at. And then when that mark comes up to look at your bait, that's when you know. That's when you know that's a fish. And I don't fish for fish marks now with forward-facing sonar. I'm fishing structure because I know that there's probably a big fish there that I can pull off, which I'm seeing, and then I can cast back in with something else and catch them. But
super interesting. That was a really great answer. Now we have a simpler question, and people could say 100 different lakes, but somebody a while ago asked about if you used one jig, what would you use on casts for deeper water?
One jig. Well, I haven't had these long enough to use it, but if I had to pick right now on casts, actually it doesn't matter. I would use a black or natural color jig, that gold shiner one you held up earlier. Depending on the bait, I would use one of those new tungstens. You're not going to go very many places where you can't. Yeah, that exact jig. You cannot go to very many places where that jig will not be effective.
Even sand over here. Someone was talking about sand.
Yeah,
there you go, right there.
It doesn't matter. Keep it. Yeah, in those, I cast super clear sand. Like you're talking to the lake.
Yeah,
big sand. So, yeah, they're super clear. So use something natural. That those fish have seen black their whole life. That leeches, minnows, everything. Use something silvery, like even plain lead. That's what I was using until I found a jig. Came out with this jig with a wider gap and perfect head.
Well, we can do better than lead.
yeah, and right, also keep it. Yep, keep one thing real quick. When you're fishing these lakes now with this if you're getting these new tungsten, you only need a handful for the season. They're going to last you, but if you're used to using a 1/4 ounce lead head ball jig, now you can get away even small. Tungsten in general smaller, but you can go to an 1/8 in that pill head design. It's not round, and it's going to cut through the water just as fast or faster than a 1/4 ounce ball head. So that's another way to downsize and more finesse your presentation on these clear lakes.
Well, yeah, and so here's a couple of jigs, and so this would probably be something I've used on the Mississippi, and I don't know why, but there's times down on the Mississippi that they eat that like it's a live minnow or something. They love those hair jigs down there, but I'm sure you probably didn't have to use them. You use plastics.
Yeah. Did you see my well that black hair jig there? I mean, I think you're hitting it on the head there. We're in a river system. That is the deal right there. And I don't know if on the Illinois River system there was a picture floating around Instagram, Facebook, where I had a picture with a sauger I caught and a plastic, and that was just a little, I guess, teaser of something that something to come that I'm very excited with. So I know it's nuts, and
I know Sam's going crazy up there.
What the guys are kind of talking about, we can tease it a little bit, is over the last 2 years, we've been designing some plastics for walleye, and Tom kind of summed it up. I think they are the ultimate plastics for walleyes. It's just every characteristic they have makes it perfect for walleyes. And, like Tom said, using Kytex and a lot of these bass plastics have transferred over. We've taken what we've learned from that, changed some things up with the material, and they're that much better now. They're crazy. Like I said, if you dig through some of the Instagrams and Facebooks of some of our pro staff, there's some sneak peeks here and there. Likely we'll be launching them this summer to show you what they are, and then they'll be available in late fall next open water season. So keep your eye out on the Northland social pages for more of those baits to be released and whatnot. But we're really excited about it. We've been catching a ton of fish on them. They're pretty cool. So.
And people are mad at me, Sam, I'll have you know, because I won't show them and I can't tell them. And I'm sure Tom's getting it too, but it's going to be great when we can reveal this summer.
Mm-hmm.
and just like that absorbent thing. But anyway, um, moving down, Sam, we got to do another announcement here because it's getting close to the winning time.
We're getting there.
What is the big prize pack?
Yep. So again, we got like usual the Northland giveaway, the Bro Roadshow mug, Bro Roadshow hat, and then an awesome swag package from Visit Bemidji. So got a little hoodie there, and Paul and Babe hanging out. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner here in a few minutes. So like, comment, and share.
Yeah, like 5 to 7 minutes, you're gonna have a big bag of goods and stuff that Tom uses and I use. Then there's a lot of little questions around some of this stuff. Someone asked, "What's your favorite lure for monster pike?" But I don't think Tom really cares about monster pike. Do you? Do you ever fish for those?
I posted a picture or a video of me catching one on one of the rods I use. They're fun, and especially when you're chasing these big walleyes and you see that mark, it's irresistible to not cast to it. So,
yeah, it's fun. You catch a lot of things, and when we were talking about light line and small lures, my true passion is catching big crappies and giant bluegills and jumbo perch, and the fish I catch on all the little tiny baits when I fish from it with an ultralight rod, it's a blast, and I catch a lot of huge walleyes, bass, and northerns on tiny baits. So there's something to be said. Everybody should be listening to him and then actually re-listen again if you get a chance. But we had a whole bunch of questions, but we got really in deep, which is great. So if you could sum it up, what would be your favorite lake that you fished in Minnesota?
My favorite lake, it's what I learned walleye fishing on a couple years ago, is Leech Lake. I just have to, that is where I learned it. And that lake is so massive that it's not Minnesota's largest lake, but it seems like it because of all the arm shoreline. But because, Leech Lake fishes like many different lakes. That's why it's my favorite. So I can learn different styles, different techniques, different presentations on that one massive lake. But again, I'm still relatively new to this. Go back to the Lake of the Woods. We caught some giant fish up there we had a 2-day tournament up there. I fished it now for a total of 5 days of my life. I just haven't had time to go up there. There's lakes that I want to go to. Lake Miltona in Alexandria last year, that surprised everybody. Like, in the national championship, we were, caught 70 some pounds. It's like on the little tiny Lake Miltona. It's like, what? But there's a lot out there. So, but my favorite, I'd have to pick Leech Lake.
Yeah, Leech Lake. And then the crazy thing is when, I know you were like you and your partner were the guys that stood up in the front of the boat.
Yes.
And I always, whenever I see you pre-fishing, you're up in the front of the boat like you're bass fishing for walleyes.
Yep.
And now everybody's doing it.
Yep.
So you started that trend, and it's unfortunate because I like sitting down. I like being behind the wheel, but now everybody's up in the front of the boat, and they're up and they're active in these tournaments. And I'm like, Tom, you started that.
Yeah, I will have to admit to that because when we first started doing it, I didn't think of it, and then we were it. We were it, and then now on both tours, it's cool. I mean, things have changed, and like 80% or more of us are standing up front now, and yeah, it's cool to see.
And then people want to know: do you fish a structure or do you run and gun?
Both. So if I can't, structure. So a lot of times I'm using live scope to look for structure now. If I catch, again, I've said this many times, but if I cast at every single fish, every single walleye I see on forward-facing sonar, I would never cash a check in a tournament. Okay. So looking for structure, I'm looking for secluded, like off the wall structure. It could be a boulder the size of a school bus in amongst a bunch of basketball sized boulders. It could be a patch of 3-foot wide patch of weeds out from the edge of the deep weed wedge, just sitting deep weed edge sitting by itself. something like that. And I'm casting a big bait down there, something I probably know the walleyes probably won't eat. They have a couple times, but I just want that walleye to be pulled off of that structure so that I can then see it. And then I burn that bait in and I cast out my confidence bait that I know, likely they're going to eat. And then I catch it. So it is run and gun. If there's nothing on that structure, if I don't pull a fish off that structure that I can see, I'm out to the next waypoint where the structure is. Try to pull something off, and then I'm just making rounds for the most part.
Then Sam, is there any more questions there?
Yeah, we just had a really good one come in. So a guy asked about how to use a smaller presentation in a river with heavier current. So you said you're kind of figuring out rivers. Have you had to deal with that where you need a bigger jig, but you're trying to get a small presentation for those fish to see, or what do you guys do there?
Okay, Brian, I need you to help me one more time.
How do you fish a small jig in river current? And I think the answer we probably brought up many times.
Yeah.
That tungsten.
So small jig, I go with as small as I can get away with. So I fished with the Illinois River. I was able to fish with a lighter jig than most other people because of that pill shaped. That shape of that new tungsten head is key also because it slices through current better than a regular ball head design. So you can get away with a smaller weight. And then also tungsten, again, in general, is smaller than lead.
Yeah, look at that.
So there's no particular weight. Yeah. There's no particular magic weight that you can get by with on any single river. You have to make that judgment based on the water flow, the depth, your line size again matters. If you're using a wider line, if you're using a heavier pound test, that's more drag from the water. So there's no magic when it comes to that, but the best thing is just to test it out. And tungsten, if you're looking for a smaller jig, is the way to go. Now tungsten, I've heard this comment, they're way more expensive. Okay, but how many are you actually going to mean? Like I'm able to go through, and these Mustad hooks now, they stay sharp. They stay sharp. Always carry a hook sharpener as well. You're good to go. I mean, they do make a big difference. And the sound, I'm a believer in the sound that the tungsten makes on hard surface is different than lead. That's proven. But I do think it actually makes a big difference on fish keying in on that as well.
Well, and I think we ran out of time because we got to do a giveaway, and I definitely got to see if you could come on maybe in May, probably if maybe the second week of May for our last show. We'll see because we didn't really get to cover everything because time flies.
Yeah.
But Northland Pro Staff, AFCO Pro Staff, and of course one of the highest winning people in the last 3 years in all of walleye. Tom Wynn, pleasure to have you on. I'm glad that you're a Northland Pro because with your ideas, you're really going to make Northland rock. And so
yeah, I'm excited. And it's not me doing that with Northland. Northland is
Sam.
Right, yeah. And honestly, like what's happening right now behind the scenes, I'm super lucky and I'm super fortunate to be with a company like this that things are going to be changing and it's awesome. It's exciting, guys. And there's a lot of questions. Thank you for the questions again, everybody. If you have any more questions, you know how to contact Bro, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions anytime. So
perfect. Well, and good luck in your next tournament.
Appreciate it.
Sam,
let's get this winner announced before we
got a winner. Yeah. Chicken dinner.
So tonight's winner is Jeff Peterson. So congratulations, Jeff.
All right. Congrats, Jeff.
To you and get that giveaway. So awesome show tonight. We're super happy to have Tom on board on the Northland staff now. So it was fun.
He's he's a really nice. Not only does he win, he doesn't have all the ego all over the place. Like some people will win a small thing. Well, Sam, you win, but you don't have the ego. But
you don't win things like Tom does, though.
No, and he's very helpful, and he wants people to learn. I want to thank everybody for being on, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 2. But I also want to thank Chesterburg Toyota, without them, we wouldn't be here. Chesterburg Toyota, great customer service, great place, great stuff. Stop in and have a cup of coffee, say hi to Brian and everybody. And then also Bemidji Sports Center. Go get muddy, go get a side-by-side, get a four-wheeler, check out those wicked rides and machines that they got there, Bemidji Sports Center. Then visit Bemidji. You're one click away from paradise. Surprise a spouse, get ready, and come visit Bemidji. Then don't forget to hire a local guide. But until next time, I want to thank Sam, my co-host, Brooke, my producer, and my really cool marketing queen, Heather Brosdahl, and everybody for joining. And we will see you next time. Have a great night and good luck fishing.
There we go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.